Andy Johnson. We are going to review some educational research. I found an interesting article, Effects of Bottom-Up and Top-Down Intervention Principles in Emergent Literacy in Children at Risk of Developmental Dyslexia. This is a longitudinal study, or was a longitudinal study, meaning it happened over time, published in 2011 in the Journal of Learning Disabilities. Remember, there's no such thing as the perfect study. No study proves conclusively once and for all that a thing is so. This study shows that each study adds a piece of this very complex puzzle. We do not live in a binary world where we can say, yes, this proves once and for all that a thing is so. Reality in the world of research is a complex, multidimensional place. As well, there is no single scientific method. There are methods of science, and the method used to study a bit of reality should match the question asked. Now, when I am looking at reading quantitative research, I want to find in the study that I look at the research question. I want information on the participants, the measures used, the treatment or conditions, and the results and discussion. When someone says research says that, that's all well and good, but I want to see the study to get a sense of what it actually said. The question here was, how do the effects of two different computer-based intervention programs compare in children at risk for developing dyslexia? One type of computer program used a bottom-up approach, a sound-to-meaning. It reflects a phonics-based instructional approach where the emphasis is on decoding. The other was a top-down approach, meaning to sound. It reflects whole language principle. The emphasis is on meaning. It was a longitudinal study, as I said, conducted in Norway. It happened over time. They begin at the preschool level, what we would consider kindergarten, and took this up to first, second, and then in the fall of the third grade, they did their final measure. The participants were children at risk of developing dyslexia. They had a screening mechanism. They also looked at parent history. The at-risk group included 25 children. In the bottom-up approach, there were 15 of them. In the top-down approach, there were 10. They also had a control group of 24 children not at risk for developing dyslexia. Bottom-up 11, top-down approach 13. The treatment, or the training or intervention, every spring for the last 2 months of school, they had a variety of computer-based programs. Either one group had the top-down approach programs and the other had the bottom-up. Now, for the spring, that first year in preschool, the intervention was 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week for a total of 40 sessions. Now, in the spring of years 2 and 3, which would be first and second grade, it was 20 minutes a day, 4 days a week, 32 total sessions. So they tried to make sure the top-down and the bottom-up approaches were as similar as possible. The only thing that was different was the type of instruction. And one way to ensure that there was some uniformity was by having a computer-based program. The measures every fall. Measures given, measuring digit span, remembering letters, verbal learning, phonologic awareness, letter knowledge, word reading, and spelling. The final measure at grade 3 was a standardized test of decoding and spelling, where students were given 4 lists of 85 words to read out loud, and they had to spell 54 real words. So that was at the end of the 3-year treatment. The results in the word reading those words. In the control group, this favored the top-down approach. The at-risk, there was no difference in their ability to read words at the end of the 3 years, and that would be in 3rd grade. As far as spelling, the control group favors the top-down approach as well as the at-risk, the ability to spell words. Now, I know this does not focus on comprehension. As I said, there's no such thing as the perfect study. It recommends age-appropriate specific data-based interventions be used starting in preschool to mitigate literacy impairment. We know from other research that some type of systematic and intense intervention is needed. Bottom-up approaches were helpful for some low-level literacy skills. Thus, Any intervention should include both bottom-up and top-down approaches. Confounding variables, things that get in the way of the study. And again, no study is perfect. Maturation, how much of the change was due to their maturation? We don't know. As far as teachers, that may have been different, or the types of classroom instruction, or the amount of reading and other literacy activities, as well the relative small sample size, which are common in these kinds of studies. These could have all confounded the study or got in the way or accounted for some of the variabilities. We just don't know. But what I can take away from this study, and I have to make sure what I take away is based on the data, we know that some type of systematic intervention is helpful for students at risk for dyslexia. We know that, all right? A phonics-only approach for students at risk for dyslexia may not be sufficient for promoting long-term growth. That's what I take. Notice how I'm couching the language, may not be sufficient. We know there is support for use of a balanced approach, meaning and decoding, in working with this population at risk. And there is support for the use of top-down whole language approaches in working with students at risk for developmental dyslexia. I did not say that this is better than that, or this proves once and for all that a thing is so. I have to be careful in how I read and interpret educational research.